Hey everyone, welcome to Paranormal Files Into the Darkness. I am your host, Sean Wagner. With me as always, my co-host, Michael Purcell. How you doing, Michael?
I'm good. How you doing?
Doing good. Did something happen? We don't have your picture here.
Wait, do you see
Did
me
you cover
at
the
all?
lens?
What's that?
We can hear you. Did you cover the lens?
No. Let's see.
I do not have any video of you. You're just the guy in the background.
Just a guy in the background. Hold on a second. Let's see. I don't know.
All right. Well,
I'll figure it out.
Keep going in the meantime here. Hopefully, Michael will become visible. Hey, Michael became visible now. Michael is back. Welcome back, Michael.
Thanks. I was playing with the background and the piano. I was tickling the key.
You got the perfect living room and kitchen combo, dining room combo, and everything.
That's right.
I've had that before. Yeah, it's an awesome. Actually, it's a great backdrop. Also, I want to thank Kyle Connolly of Encrypted Connections for mentioning the paranormal shows we do here at the CARC. And check out his channels. He does live stream shows and also does investigations. And I am going to. Yeah, not quite what I wanted to do. We're going to take in, copy the hyperlink. I'm going to put it in the chat. And then I'm going to move it over to the screen. There we go. All right. And we're going to show. All right. All right. And just in case for other places, we're going to bring it up momentarily. Again, it's for Encrypted Connections. Kyle Connolly, great guy. He's had me on the show. Tremendous guy, by the way. All right. Check out his shows and subscribe and that. Check it out. You won't regret it. And one of the best people I know as well. All right. Now, for our guest tonight, we will have on one of the Presidium Warriors of St. Michael. We're going to have on James Annitto. How you doing, James?
I am living the dream. How about you guys?
Hey, doing the same.
Doing good.
All right. Ahead of us there.
Oh, crap.
No problem. You got our chance for a toast as well.
Oh, there's still some left, so I'll make it to the toast.
That's what matters. Also, our show is a super chat, so give us a like and a share on Facebook or thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell so you'll be notified of future broadcasts on YouTube. And if you could please share, thank you to everyone. And for everyone for tuning in the future. Also, if you have any questions on the way, please put them in all capital letters. All right, well, it's now time for the toast. We're going to toast to a great show and also very close to the weekend. Almost made it through the weekend. To the weekend.
One more day.
Yes. Oh, thank God, only one more day.
Oh.
All right. All right, we have Scott Walker. Hey guys, how you doing? I'm a big Bigfoot believer, and I do believe there are real animals as well as a gorilla and the other animal out there, and I hope one day we will find them and study them. Well, that would be awesome if you do. And thank you for tuning in. Our show deals more with the paranormal, though. Hey, and Melissa's back. Hey, Melissa.
2 weeks in a row.
Yes, and cheers. You're a hair late. Hopefully you caught the toast though. You'll be number a toast going on anyway. All right. Hey James, can you tell us how you told a great story on Saturday when I was there in Gettysburg about how you and Father Bob came together and formed the Presidium Warriors?
Yeah, so I wish Father Bob was here with us tonight. He's under the weather. I think that trip to Gettysburg kind of took him out. He's not as young as he used to be, but he's recharging, and hopefully he'll make it to the event we have this Saturday. But yeah, Father Bob and I knew each other over 10 years ago. It's probably longer than that, but I'm just gonna give a rough number out there. But I was I wouldn't say fan because I'm not really a fan of anybody. I don't like idolize anybody, but yeah, I respected his work on Paranormal State. And knowing that he was local to Rhode Island, which is where I'm from, where I live, I should say. I'm originally from New York, but um, I wanted to get in touch with him because I was involved in the work of spiritual warfare and demonology, and something that's always been kind of my avenue is working with as many people as I can in my respective field, and as well, of course, the grander scheme of the paranormal in general, and that ufology, cryptozoology, being a paranormal investigator. So I had reached out to him and said, "Hey, I've seen you on Paranormal State. I do this line of work. I would love to sit down with you and talk with you." And we became really good friends. We would grab lunch together, talk about the industry. And at that time, he was running a group called PWSM. It was at that time the Paranormal Warriors of St. Michael, and he had co-founded with another gentleman that's no longer a part of it. You know, in retrospect, at that time it wasn't a great fit. I was learning. I still had a little bit of immaturities, and it was just great to convene and talk to each other about what we did and how I could grow and how they could grow. And we learned from each other, in my opinion, I do believe. But so there was a time where actually Father Bob and I actually worked on a case together. I was working on a case in Cumberland, Rhode Island that appeared on my ghost story called Demon Shadow. Was one of the most prolific episodes of my ghost story, one of the highest rated viewing. I didn't appear on it, but the case did. But it was that case that I then brought Father Bob in because the homeowners were still dealing with phenomena after my involvement and after Keith Johnson's involvement. So, I thought that would be a perfect case to work with Father Bob the first time. And, working together on that, we acknowledged that there was something there and he did what he had to do. Because when we were sitting at the table with the clients, my rosary severed and fell right into my lap. So
Oh,
there
wow.
was definitely something there, and we both observed it in the sense of that phenomena, and just the icky feeling in that house. But after that case, we actually lost touch with each other for many number of years. Due to one. There was an indifference with one of his members of PWSM with me. So that kind of created a divide. But at the same time, Father Bob eventually fell out of the paranormal because he was, for one, taking. I'm not speaking for this in a bad way, but it was either parish life and being there for his congregation or doing the paranormal and all that stuff. So, of course, he's a priest, a Roman Catholic priest at that. So he decided to take his congregation and his parish and chaplaincy afterwards, because that's what his vocation is. So he's a man with a mission and he understands what his mission is. But so in that time, was still doing things, but then he actually also had 11 amount of health issues and eventually had to retire couple of years ago, which I did not know of until we started rekindling our friendship and started talking. But about 4 months ago, 5 months ago, case that he had dealt with long time ago. I won't talk about the case because I'm not privy about these individuals. But they actually had tagged him, and I was like, oh. He has Facebook, because I had deleted my Facebook for over a year and a half. So I had lost touch with a bunch of people. And so I was like, let me add Bob, let me add Father Bob. And there was just something in me that said, reach out to him. Because when I went through a dark period of time, in that year and a half where I was off Facebook, and the reason I was off Facebook because we're humans and we all have our own roadblocks and hurdles that we have to face. But I had a very prolific situation that had happened to me that was very likely to the same extent where I actually went from being agnostic to a Christian. So during this dark period, I received like a stoic message. Like, I don't know if it was God or my inner consciousness. That's always debatable. I do believe it was God, to be honest with you, but people can believe that or not. But the message was that something big is going to come your way, and I thought of that when I was reaching out to Father Bob, and I was like, well, this could be the something big, because us with our combined experiences, his 31 years of ministry and my 20 years of the paranormal, as of June, it will be 20 years. We'd be a force to be reckoned with in the sense of spiritual warfare and helping people, putting our experience and knowledge together. So I, of course, said, hey, would you like to get together for dinner? And that's when I kind of proposed the idea of, let's get PWSM back together, but it being reformed, renewed, evolved. And, that's where, of course, Presidium Warriors of St. Michael came to be. And he wanted, really why it's Presidium now, because it means Legion. It was a part of the Roman Legion, where it was one of the more not sinister groups, but more of the like top echelon group of the Roman Legionnaire. And so he wanted us to get away from the paranormal incantation, even though we deal with the paranormal. We don't want to be looked at as a paranormal group. We are a deliverance ministry group. So, our focus is helping people, doing deliverances, house blessings. We do have an investigating aspect of it, but but that's basically how it came together. After so many years apart, I took that message that I received during my dark period of time, and then once I was back to being a normal me without being in the darkness, I was presented an option, a fork in the road, so to say, and I could have went left and never messaged him, or I could have went right and messaged him. And I went right and messaged him, and I feel like that's where we are now. We have within a month, we had a full team together. Now we have a case manager, we have an investigator, we have a medical staff professional who's an RN. We did have a researcher, but due to personal reasons, they left. But we also have a prayer director, and I think we have a very fluid group now that everybody has their specialty. We are looking for a researcher in the New England area, but yeah, I could go on a tangent about PWSM and where we are at today, but no, that's basically how it came together. And it was out of respect for each other. One thing that Father Bob said to me, which was very heartfelt, is he's like, I seen your growth. I seen you mature. I seen how far you got. I seen that you made a name for yourself. You're very knowledgeable. And that meant a lot coming from him, because, that's one thing that I've always tried to do. TV and fame was never my accolade. Like, yes, I've been on television. I've traveled the country. I've gone overseas, spoke and led tours and stuff like that, which is all a fabulous thing. But that was never the importance of what I did. It was learning my field, my craft, expanding it into the academia. I graduate in August with my psychology degree. So I've been ordained in 2 different Christian denominations. So I've always tried to better myself, better my knowledge, and better who I was. So to hear that from him was a very kind compliment. And, we have a great respect for each other. We are like brothers. We bicker, and I love it. But yeah, PWSM and where I'm at with Father Bob right now is a blessing in disguise.
Well, that's awesome. One moment here, we have a question. Hey guys, how you doing? Or wait, no, I'm sorry, the wrong one.
I like that question though.
You like that question?
I do. I like both. Yeah.
Okay, what are the chances Bigfoot looks like the Bigfoot creature from Harry and the Hendersons? I would think actually pretty good if it exists. Be fairly close, I would think. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. One of the things is I just talked about television is not my thing, but I was actually on an episode of Finding Bigfoot.
Okay.
So I do like cryptozoology. I'm very into biology and zoology. I always tell the story about the mountain gorilla being found in Japan over 100 years ago. And, it was always a myth until they actually stumbled across it. So, it is quite possible the Bigfoot could look how it's interpreted or how it's been cited. There's really, to me, not really enough photographic or video evidence of such a being or such an animal. But the one thing that I always say, because I love anthropological viewpoints, and I love anthropology. I'm a social science guy. That's why the psychology degree. But I think if you look at a cultural context throughout the whole entire world, especially Native American cultures, from Siberia to North America to South America to Africa, there is a similar creature in every single one of those cultures. And some of those cultures at one point never really had communication with each other that we know of. Maybe they did, something we haven't figured out yet. But for every culture to have a very similar animalistic being, as what we call Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Yeti, skunk ape, and so on and so on. But yeah, I think it could exist, and I definitely think it could look like Harry and the Hendersons. Probably not as goofy looking, but I think that it's quite possible that it does exist, and I don't know about finding it and studying it. As humans, I'm very wary about that because we I feel if we found a Bigfoot, we'd kill the damn thing and then research it. And I really am not privy for that, because I know how humans are. We'll probably shoot the damn thing and dissect it.
Well, that's a lot of people believe that, the only way to prove that they exist actually is pretty much to kill one and say, here it is, and bring it in somewhere.
Yeah, we would though. We would definitely kill it.
Oh, that's definitely true. We'll go one more question there. Another reply there. How come there are a lot more black-haired Bigfoot out there than are white-haired Bigfoot? Because all the Bigfoot photos I've seen over the years that are black or brown Bigfoot, not many white.
Well, the white Bigfoot is the Yeti. That is, I think it has to deal with the environment. Of course, a Yeti with white fur or white hair would be more environmental. Like it would be able to camouflage with the snow. It probably adapted to that specific area. While, of course, where you get to wooded areas or more open areas, black or brown is because of probably the sun and how it's pigmented and there's a lot to why the environmental factors of a Bigfoot, so but the Yeti is white and the Yeti is verbatim basically the same creature, identified, might have different characteristics or physicalities, I should say, to a small degree, but in reality they can be quantified as the same creature or from the same descent. So in my opinion, and how they're explained. So
excellent, thank you. Didn't expect to talk as much Bigfoot tonight.
Yeah, definitely.
And he also goes on to say, and I do believe the government is covering up Bigfoot's existence because you get reports of a Bigfoot being killed, and then you do like the military is called in to take away the body. Why? That's hard to tell.
It's conspiracy theory, I do love the conspiracy theory like everybody else does, but I think that if there was a Bigfoot, I think there would have been something leaked by now if there was a government interaction with it, to be honest with you, especially now that we have people like Snowden and all that stuff, whistleblowers. I think it would have got out, look at how the government scrambled after the Navy pilots saw the UFO and how they had this big unraveling, and really what they showed really didn't identify much, to be honest with you, in my opinion. But that doesn't denote the fact that there could be life outside of our Earth and our planet. But I think that science fiction, especially with Bigfoot, has created this synopsis that it's humanoid, or that it's very human oriented, and that's us peppering our importance into other beings. You know, an alien from another planet could be the size of plankton from SpongeBob, and you know, we never know, or they could not even be anything like the encounters of the fourth kind, or I believe, or it was fourth or fifth kind, but one of them, you know, the aliens actually were just light anomalies, right? They were non-corporeal. So you know, we always, you know, L. Ron Hubbard and, you know, H.P. Lovecraft and all these people, of course, kind of stigmatized what an alien would be, and we take it with that. And so the same thing with the Bigfoot, we stigmatize it, and we give it these thoughts of that it cloaks and it's an interdimensional being. I really don't know all that friggin' crap, but some
I'm a
people
little
believe it.
skeptical myself on that. Yeah, as well.
Yeah, like, yeah, I can get it. Like, well, if it's stayed hidden for so long, how, like I said, the mountain gorilla just was discovered over 100 years ago. It's probably about 140 years now, 120 years or something like that now, maybe a little longer, but it's within those confines. Like, they're very smart creatures, man. Gorillas and primates are very smart creatures. You know, they get a bad rap for eating their own poop and flinging it, but they are very smart creatures, and for them to stay concealed for so long, you know, like, that doesn't, that if this thing has been concealed for so long, is very good at staying hidden. You know, it's going to have trouble. We're going to have trouble finding it, especially if they're in lower numbers. You know, I don't think there's thousands of them. There's probably dozens of them, but you know, and that's just a theory. You know, I'm not swearing by that fact, because I could be proven one day that they don't exist, and it'll just be like, okay, that's cool with me. I won't lose any sleep over it.
All right. Great. By the way, thank you. All right. Say hello. That's Fresh.
Hey,
Awesome.
Fresh.
Thank you for joining us, Fresh. Also, Charlie's in. How you doing, Charlie? Another head of the CARC. All right. All right. Let's go on to. I meant to. What was I going to do? I forgot what I was going to do. Actually, unfortunately. But it's impressive how you have like your psychology degree you're going for. You don't even do that for a living. You actually have a regular job because you're in. Can you tell us what you do as your regular job?
Yeah.
And
So oh, good. Sorry.
go ahead. No, go ahead. I'm sorry. That's good.
Yeah. So no. Yeah. I don't uh, have an academic scholarly background in the sense of like what I utilize. You know, I'm not a professor. I'm not a full time theologian or minister. I actually work in the construction industry. I've been in the HVAC industry / plumbing industry, so M&P of the MEP trades for over 10 years now. I'm a project manager and estimator for my company that I work with. I'm the number 3 guy. So that's, you know, I was installer, foreman, helper. I worked my way up. I did go to school for that as well, because in New England, or at least in Rhode Island, Massachusetts, you need a license. So that's been paying my bills and putting a roof over my head for a very long time now. But that's what I specifically do. But what's great about it is that I can apply a lot of what I learned in construction to paranormal investigating. So it's really come hand in hand. It's weird. I never chose the construction industry saying, "Oh, and it's going to help me the paranormal." It just I figuratively realized that both come together when I'm investigating houses or trying to debunk or look at specific situations, and especially being in the HVAC field, you know,
Oh
ductwork
yeah.
and heat and venting and all that stuff has a lot to do with hallucinating, infiltration of air, objects moving due to infiltration because there's poor insulation or open spots in the house. So like a lot of that, what I've learned and I've really become part of my career, because that's my career. It's not just a job. You know, it's really applied and helped me in a lot of older homes, realizing, okay, this is older home. You haven't remodeled it. There's no new insulation in it. You know, there's probably animals up in the attic because, you know, you have a vent on the side of your house, and, you know, they're probably getting in there. So a lot of these things help me process and be more of an analytical thinker or critical thinker when I'm dissecting cases. So, but yeah, that's what I do. I love it. I always say, like, even my boss today, he's like, he forgot I was in college, but I was like, we were talking about college or something like that, and yeah, it's like, oh, I graduate in August. He's like, what do you graduate with? I'm like, oh, I've already told you, buddy. But I'm like, a psychology degree. And he looked at me like he thought, I'm like, oh, that's like my 2 weeks notice kind of thing. I'm like, no, I'm like, I don't plan to ever leave this field. And like one day, of course, when I'm old enough, I do have like a fallback plan. Like, it has nothing to do with the paranormal, to be honest with you, but and it's something that I love doing. I love going to work every single day. So but yeah, it's my bread and butter, and so isn't the paranormal. I call my paranormal my sub career, even though I make no money doing it. So,
And that's why I give you all the credit in the world. You got the psychology degree for a good bit, at not knowing if you're ever really going to use it, and you're using it for your hobby, more or less.
I am, and of course my own personal mission. Like I had a lot of childhood trauma. I went through a lot of dark things, which I really think what catapulted me into where I'm at today. Oddly enough, so it's like a really mixed bag thing. It's really the like kind of look back at my past. Not living in it because I don't live in my past. I'm a present guy, future guy. But yeah, it's definitely a mixed bag. But I really more applied it towards, because then I could better understand people and help them better, and try to be able to speak to them better and understand what they're going through. I do plan to go for my master's degree. I'm probably going to take a 6-month break before I launch myself into the master's program, but I do plan to have a master's degree in it, because I feel like even though it's just a degree and a word, I think it just helps apply my knowledge better and specifically what I do all around. Psychology is not just a paranormal, but it could also apply to my management background, because that's what I am, a manager. So I can how to handle the guys differently, or how to maybe even deal with the customer differently to maybe win a job. So there are specific avenues that it will better me, and of course it would also be a notch in my belt, which is never a bad thing. It makes you worth more money when you have something like that. Especially if I go to another company, which I never plan to. I love the company I work for, but I'm a very good spot in my position. So, but yeah, no, it helps in multiple levels, and psychology as much as it is disdained and hated from specific people because they don't understand it. It is very helpful. There's a lot that the mind can affect your physicality, your physical health, with what your wellness.
Definitely.
So it's really important to know your mental health to understand your physical wealth. So it helps all around. It helps my personal life too. It's given me tools to diffuse situations in my own life. And yeah, you always have to be thankful for the knowledge that's passed down to you.
Oh my, yeah, definitely. We had some other comments here along the way here.
No more Bigfoot questions. I'm just kidding.
I don't know if we'll get more or not. Charlie says, "What's going on, boys? Great show. Thank you, Charlie. It is indeed a great show so far." And that's fresh on your construction trade. Do you advocate POEIF?
I don't even know what the hell that means. Let me look it up real quick. Maybe I do. Maybe it's like a different terminology. The one thing about the construction industry is that there's different terminologies everywhere. Let me see. I never heard that in my life. What does that acronym mean? Can you please tell me what that acronym means? Because maybe I'll understand it differently. PO.
Oh,
I've never
early
heard of that.
Friday.
Yeah, right. Freaking. What did it say?
Piss off early. It's Friday.
Oh shit! So yeah, so we call that Friday for the men. So when I was a foreman and in the field, we would as long as we did a good job, right? I would never award the guys for doing shitty work for the week. But if they did a great work, what I would do on a Friday, 12 o'clock hits, we go to a local brewery or restaurant and we drink beers, and I buy their food and I buy their beers for doing a great job for the week to raise morale. So yeah, we call that Friday for the men here. But yeah, no, I do advocate for it, but as long as they're doing a good job. The problem is with the workforce right now, and I don't know how the hell this has to do with the show, but I will say this because we're on the topic. Um, there are a lot, and this actually does relate to paranormal investigators. There's a lot of people that half-ass what they do nowadays, and so it's hard to award people for shitty work, to be honest with you. And that could relate to paranormal investigators, because there's a lot of people that will just go in a house and say, this is happening, it's a freaking demon, or they will have a freaking cause and effect within a minute of being there, because somebody's like, I feel this in my head, it has to be Beelzebub or something like that. It relates all around. But yeah, Friday for the men. Woo. well I gotta be woke. Friday for everybody. Woo.
That is true, very true. All right.
Yeah.
And then Fresh said, missing women isn't a bad thing. Also, what has been your most interesting experience?
I've had many, none that were really fearful. I would really, to be honest, say that like there was a time and place that, even though I was religious again and I was studying demonology, there was a point where I still didn't believe in it, because I am a see it to believe it kind of guy. Like, I love theories, I love speculation, I love all that stuff, because a lot of what we have that is empirical was once speculation or contrived by somebody, and so that opinion and that thought sometimes can lead to empirical evidence or empirical data. But so my first demonic case really was one of my most interesting experiences, because even though I do find them to be rare now after that one case, it was eye-opening to realize that these things do exist. As much as you question it and want to see it, you really don't want to see it. As I say every single time I'm on a show or on a lecture, I'm glad every single day that I don't see one, even though it's my specialty. And you think, a scientist wants to have a data be in front of their face to say, aha, my hypothesis was right, or it was a null hypothesis and it was wrong. But, the problem is that it really slapped me in my face. But one of the greatest things about that interesting experience, though, and really coming across that demonic case, was that it actually strengthened my faith. It didn't divert me away from God, saying, oh, okay, well, there's evil and it exists, and so God's a shitbag. But it really actually strengthened my faith, that realized, okay, well, there is evil. I really has to be good, and there has to be that theodicy approach where there is good and evil, and an understandable nature that if there is evil, there is good, and if there's good and there's evil. So that was most interesting, because in the sense that it really made me come more forth towards my faith, and it also made me experience something that a lot of people truly, earnestly won't ever experience. That word is thrown out a lot. You can watch a show right now. I can pop on Travel Channel and watch 20 episodes of something that claims demonic, but it's really not that. It's not really that regular that you will come across one. But you will say that some of these shows, they do provoke, and maybe they call for something, and that's why they're dealing with it. And I do agree with that. Like, maybe it's a laws of attraction, laws of intention thing. Maybe something's dormant and you awaken it because you're a dickhead. But I do come in to respect in a respectful nature, and I don't really chase it. So maybe I have a different experience than others do. But I also think that I also don't misdiagnose things inappropriately either. And I actually look at a lot of the details and try to dissect everything as possible as I can to find a cause and effect. And I think within those dissecting moments, you can figure out, okay, well, it's not that. It gives a lot of the qualities off. But, and one of the things that I would say why a lot of the times spirits can give off the quality of a demonic entity is because we tend to forget for a lot of the times, unless it's like a stone tape theory and residual, we call it intelligent, right? If something doesn't want you there, it's going to intelligently haunt you, in the sense that if it doesn't want you there, it's going to be negative. It's going to do everything in its power to boast its chest. So but yeah, that I went off on a tangent because I'm the tangent master. But that was my most interesting experience. But I've had many. I will say I'm this is a shameless plug, but June 1st, I'm doing the first family event at the USS Salem, which is in Quincy, Mass. It's the heavy cruiser that was a part of the U.S. Navy. It's actually bigger than most of the battleships that the U.S. Navy actually commissioned. But every time I go there, I have an interesting experience. It's one of the first. It's one of the only few places I've ever had an audible experience where we actually heard yelling and a woman's voice. Where we were in a contained group. There's always an experience there. So I would say that place is always an interesting experience. So, but I've had many. Like I said, I've been all over the country, and that's not me boasting, but that's me being honest and truthful. But I have also been to Romania and have investigated a lot of Romania too, such as Corvin's Castle, Dracula's Castle, Hoya Baca Forest. I've actually was the first international group to investigate Vlad the Impaler's birth home. I've had a lot of interesting experiences and a lot of interesting places that I've been.
That sounds very interesting. That's awesome.
I always have to throw Romania out there. That's like my one egg in the basket.
All right. Scott says over here in Australia, 50,000 people a year go missing.
Oh, it's them damn kangaroos, man. Them kangaroos.
Tasmanian devils.
Putting them in pouches, bro. The freaking kangaroos are freaking. Those pouches go to another dimension.
We've got international now, not only with That's Fresh, but now Scott down in Australia and the UK.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about. Yeah, I did completely forget. I'm sorry That's Fresh is in the UK.
Yeah. And we're supposed to meet up.
We are world famous. We all are world famous. But then he says, That's Fresh goes, Scott, are you sure that's correct figure or the reported statistic? I investigated in the UK from quite a few years, looking at the patterns, and the average must be 243,000 in the UK. Okay. And we'll go on down past that conversation here a little bit here.
A lot of people.
Yeah.
We're actually doing, thank you, chat. We're doing quite well. Keep it going. And the next question comes from Scott. What are the chances the demon from Paranormal Activity movies is real? Toby, is there a chance it is real or not?
Man, I love entertainment. I love the horror movie like anybody else. And I do, as much as people poop on Paranormal Activity, love it because it was a different kind of movie. It was a found footage film. I'm a big Blair Witch kind of guy. Of course, though, to make it interesting, they had to throw a demon in there. The Toby's not real, but something like in a real case could masquerade as Toby, and then it would unravel from there. A lot of the things I tell people in a true demonic case, it's not friggin' balls to the wall right away. They're very deceptive, manipulative. It will come across of something nice and deceptive, saying, please play with me. And when you let your guard down is when things start to unravel, because it's that form of invitation. The form of aspect of Toby, where it started off very light and then it escalated from there, is in reality kind of how a demonic case would go, unless detected early. And of course, religious provocation was said then, and maybe will become detrimental to the family. But I do love the show, the movie Paranormal Activity, the first three, I think, and everything after that just became a turd ball. But no, but that's the problem is everybody watches these movies and watches these shows, and it gives them an inkling of an idea of, oh, this is how it is. And there's only been a few movies that really have, in the form of the demonic, have really been kind of accurate, and that one is The Right. Great movie with Sir Anthony Hopkins. And Nefarious, which just came out a year ago or 2 years ago. And that's a fantastic movie. But there's not many movies that really articulate uh, the 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 actual facts or actual dealings of the demonic. And one show that I always tell people, and once again after like the second season, it's a turd ball in my opinion. Yeah, it's great entertainment, but the first two seasons of Evil are a great articulation of what I do specifically and how you can dissect a case and not jump to the conclusion it's demonic, and
I love that show.
working with different people, different perspectives. They have a tech guy, they have a psychologist, and then they have the seminarian, who does mushrooms to talk to God, which is very fascinating because there's a lot of cultures that do psychedelics to talk to a higher power. So not Christian oriented, but no, great show. But there's a handful. Like, there's probably I just listed three, right? There's probably two more that I could probably put on my fingers or on my count to say that there's some legitimacy. Like even the first Exorcist movie, all the other ones were turds after that, but even the first Exorcist was, prolific in the sense of making people aware that this exists and based off a true story, and really not barbaric to how it actually came together. She used the Ouija board, the wrong place, wrong time kind of thing. I have my opinions on Ouija boards. Father Bob has a different opinion about it, which is great. We like to debate, and this doesn't mean that it has to be bad. But even Exorcist, I could throw in there and saying it was a movie that really opened the eyes of people. So there's not many though. A lot of them is entertainment. A lot of them is over dramatized, theatrical. So you got to be careful with what you take as sincerity and what as fact or as what's possible to these movies. Enjoy them as what they are, but don't apply them to paranormal investigating because you'll set yourself for failure, especially if you're dealing with people.
There was one show I remember, I believe it was A Haunting in Connecticut, or at least that's what the story was based off of. I'm not sure what show it was on.
Oh, Hunting
It might have been
Connecticut.
The Haunting, in which
It
the
was,
demons. Go ahead.
it was a movie, and then
It was
yeah, it was a movie, and then after the movie, they made it into the series A Haunting.
okay. There. Well, anyway, at the bottom of the stairs, the demon turns his head into a flame and shoots it up the stairs. Could they actually do that for real?
I've never seen it.
I mean, that is pretty out there.
Well, in reality, using a parapsychology term, because I am a part of parapsychology group with two doctors of social science, PPRI, out of New England, Canada. Great group. Dr. Elliot Van Duzen, great man, very smart man. In a psychokinesis standpoint, they can manipulate items, even though they're non-corporeal. Demons are non-corporeal. That means never physical. That means they are spiritual form of what they are made up. What their makeup of is, unless the collider can figure out like a hidden thing that we do not know, which they a lot of physicists will say that the collider would have proved that ghosts existed a long time ago through particle research. So a lot of them will say that there's no existence of it because the collider hasn't found it. But if in fact that they are wrong, we don't know what the non-corporeal state is made of. So through psychokinesis, they can manipulate, in my opinion, and what my viewpoints and my experiences, they can manipulate things, manipulate people. As far as like fire physically manifested from them, I'd have to say no because in reality they maybe can make it a psychic image of it, and like through your third eye you're experiencing that. But through a physical manifestation, I don't think so, unless there was really fire there, and like there was like a fireplace or a stove that had fire, like a gas stove, and then and use psychokinesis to move that fire. Um, Other than that, I don't think that could happen, but I haven't come across it. Once again, I'm a see it to believe it kind of guy. I've heard stories, and of course, I know that movie very, somewhat well. I've watched it in many years, but I don't think it's possible. But somebody might say differently. But I also look at demonology and this kind of field in a different viewpoint than others do. I know demonologists that always do cases and everything's a demon to them, and I'm not saying that illy towards them. I just think that that's what their perspective of it is, and
Mm-hmm.
these call signs make them to say it's demonic. But if I was involved in it, I probably wouldn't qualify it as. But that doesn't make me right or wrong. Maybe they are right, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm blinded. Maybe I'm being deceived. Who knows? There's always that speculation to every little thing, especially when it comes to the unknown. It is called the paranormal for a reason. If it wasn't paranormal, then it would be known. So
Sure.
speculation it can go out as much as it can to in this field until we find something empirical.
And that's fresh. Do you believe a spirit can manifest physically, being mindful of footprints, say, left in talcum powder?
Yeah, one of the things that one of the first people to start using like talcum powder, baby powder, and stuff like that was Harry Price, and a lot of people can debate about Harry Price. A lot of bad things were said about him and found it out afterwards. I am an old school investigator. I do like some of the tools. A lot of the new age tools I find laughable, but to each their own. But I still put bells on doors and stuff like that. So I think that possibly, yeah, powder can be. I've never seen it really truly happen, but I think powder can be a point to be used if they are there's enough energy and they and then and their thought that they are physical, right? Of course they're not physical by the nature as we are. We don't. They don't have a meat body. But I think that they could leave an impression just based upon their willpower. I've never seen it. I know I have people that have documented it and have had those experiences, and I do believe in their experiences because some of these people, to me, don't come off as liars. I could be wrong though, but I think it's quite a possibility. And as far as how they manifest, that's the big to know. Like I said, unless we find a particle or something like that through the collider or identification of how this energy is permeated or lingering or tethered, then it's really hard to really kind of pinpoint a conclusion to how they manifest. But I really think a lot of it, there are a lot of spirits manifestations are through the tethering of emotions to a location or people through the consciousness. I always say, and it's always a joke, people laugh, but it's true. There was no humans that had a physical relationship or emotion to dinosaurs. Why the hell do we not have dinosaur manifestations? Because no humans existed during this time frame, and they don't manifest because there was never that tether between a human and a dinosaur. Yeah, cats and dogs farm animals tend to appear, but there is usually an emotional connection to these animals at this point in time or in the past. So there could be some sort of stone tape theory or residual activity, or even maybe an emotional projection. So there's a lot to dissect and swim through to get to why certain things happen. But um, yeah, as far as how manifestations happen, I do not know. I do not know if they step through a portal or vortex or they just appear because of a certain energetic, like energizing moment within our thought or within our fear. There's so much speculation. Like I said, I love theory, and there's so many theories about the preternatural. So I could go over every single one of them, but God forbid we be on this freaking radio show for the next 5 hours of my life, if not longer.
I can easily imagine. And there's one thing I wanted to get to. The question that I forgot to ask a little bit ago. Can you tell us the difference between a deliverance and an exorcism?
Oh man, Father Bob should be here for that. But no, yeah. And so I would say the best way for deliverance to be interpreted is like a form of healing prayer and delivering something from somebody. Usually, how I will equate it without staying too long on this topic is that if there is an infestation, attachment, or an oppression, you can perform a deliverance on that person to sever that connection between the spirit or the entity or the demonic, which could still qualify as entity. But an exorcism would be then performed either on a person that's possessed, or you can perform a minor exorcism on a house that has demonic infestation. But you can also perform, excuse me, you can perform a deliverance on a house that has demonic infestation. It might be less successful than a minor rite of exorcism on a house, because the difference between a minor rite of exorcism is it's usually done on a property, while a solemn rite of exorcism is usually on a person that's possessed. So that's really where I would say the difference, right? You would never you can perform a deliverance on a person that's possessed, and there very minute chance that it's successful, but what it could do is it could de-escalate the situation in the moment if they the demoniac, who which is the possessed individual, who is the host of the demon at that point when it is possession, the deliverance can bring that person's willpower back to their consciousness, and that it can take over their body, which we would call transient possession, the demon coming and going. But but in reality, if you really qualify somebody to be possessed, then you really should get an exorcist involved. And it really also depends on their faith. You know, there are faiths that have different forms of rituals of exorcism. But I'm Christian, so I deal with a lot of Christian oriented people. So to me, my best route would be going to the Roman Catholic Church that has the oldest form of exorcism ritual out of all Christian churches. You know, the Catholic Church, regardless, I won't get in theological debate with anybody, but the Catholic Church is the oldest church in the Christian denomination. So they've been around for a very long time. They know how to combat these things. And I'm not saying that anybody else's denomination isn't good enough, but for my own perspective of it and my understanding of theology and the church in itself, I would go to a Roman Catholic church. But working with the Roman Catholic priest, he's not an exorcist, he's a deliverance minister and a healing minister. But so with him being him involved, like we did handle a case and we did determine somebody possessed through documentation and through religious provocation and through religious iconography and stuff like that. You know, we then of course he knows the diocese, diocese of Providence's exorcist. He knows him personally, so then he would say to the bishop, right? Because he has to go through the bishop first. It's not like he go to the exorcist and the exorcist says, "Well, I'm going to do this." He has to go to the bishop, and the bishop has to approve it. But then, of course, if Father Bob is saying, "Okay, well, I've experienced this. Here's also data. Here's videos, audio. Here's pictures." And then he supplies that to the bishop. The bishop then will, of course, take his testimony and take the data, and then we'll send the exorcist to get involved. So there's a process, but you know, that's the difference between a deliverance and exorcism, as best as I can explain it within a confines of a few minutes.
Sure. And when you take on the demons, and you become marked as well, or something to that effect, correct?
That's what they say, and I truly, truly believe it. And I don't think it's marked once you get involved. I think that the people that legitimately do this, and I'm not saying I'm better than anybody else, so please don't take it as such, viewers or other people listening. I think that this line of work is you're meant to do it, right? So things happen in your life and you get to that point where you're involved in this circumstance like myself. So you already are prepared in a sense. So I think you're marked at birth that okay, that eventually this person is going to get through it. You know, I don't believe in determined destiny, but I think in some form it was my determined destiny, in the sense that what I went through led me to this pathway, and this is why I deal with it today. So there's a sense of being marked for it, right? I think anytime that you study your enemy, and that's like a Sun Tzu art of war thing. When you study your enemy, you acknowledge your enemy, and then you also apply that knowledge and that form of research, and you apply it towards the enemy in sense of ridding them or diagnosing it. Yeah, you will be affected and marked. I feel I can't say everything that's happened in my life was because of a demon. Some people might say so, but I also think that I'm thrown rough patches in my life, as forms of trials and tribulations to keep my faith strong. And I have so much willpower that I've had many moments of defeat and felt like giving up. And when I was a child, I am a suicide survivor. But I'm still here with you, unfortunately, for the people that don't like me. But yeah, so I think that I was built for this for a reason, and I don't think you choose it. I think it chooses you. And it's not something like I was a child and said, I want to be a demonologist. I want to fight demons. It was never in my vocabulary. Like, I laughed at God when I was a kid. I was so agnostic, and I like to call myself a Darwinist when I was a child, because I so loved evolutionary biology. I still do to this day, even though it's called neo-Darwinism now. But I I scoffed at the idea of God and demons and angels and all that stuff, and it's a 180 now. And I think it was meant to happen for that reason. Oddly to say, but I I definitely think that I'm on the right path for sure.
Oh.
Mike,
Michael, do you have a question?
Mike,
Go
you're
ahead.
one quiet guy, my friend.
Oh, I'm just listening, taking in
He
your
has a
stories.
question.
I'm
You-
busy
Michael-
talking.
I think you have a question, don't you?
Who?
It's in chat, the private chat.
Mike, can I play your piano, please?
Sure. Come on. Here. No. Oh, let's see what we got. So I do have a question.
I love it.
Getting ready for it. What do you do to train to take on the possible demonics? Is there some a ritual or something that you do?
Yes, I for sure do. If I know there's a case coming up and I don't know the full extent of what I'm dealing with, I will pray. I will try to change my current reality. So if I have a lot of stress going on in my life, or specific things that that I can change through my own ability, I will try to detract my personal life out of the matter, and I will pray. Sometimes fast. I love eating, so fasting's hard for me, but sometimes fast. I will wear specific religious iconography or medals or items. So at the case, I'll say prayers before and after the case, in form of retaliation. So there's a lot. I will keep myself somewhat physically in shape. I definitely do have a dad bod right now because I love eating, and I'm a father of two. So what they eat, I eat, and but I try to keep physically in shape just in case that is a physical occurrence with the person. So there are specific things that I do. I know with Father Bob, he fasts. He being a Roman Catholic priest and having formation for a very long time, being in seminary for 8 years and then being in formation for for 1 year, equaling nine years, basically shifts your whole entire reality of what you do with your life. So I know he prays 2 hours every morning, and then on cases he'll fast. Sometimes he'll do a black fast. I don't always go that crazy, and but one thing I will say is I have really good connection with God, and however you interpret it, higher power or Yahweh or Allah or gods and goddesses. Like I have a good faith. I have a good connection to higher power. I keep that love. I don't ever blame God for anything. You know, usually when things happen, it's usually through our occurrences, through people we associate with. So I don't blame. I take actions for what actions happen to me as my own specific doings or people that I associate with. So I try to separate unhealthy lifestyle and try to live a healthy lifestyle, which is very important when you're dealing with the dark, because when you're dealing with a demon, they will use every avenue possible to convey weaknesses to you and contort those and use them against you. So I try not to have weaknesses. I do have weaknesses. I'm human. I'm a sinner like anybody else. I've done many stupid things in my life, but I try to have a healthy relationship with what I've done and try to overcome it. And that's a very important thing to have in the work that I do. Living in the past creates depression, right? Living for the future creates anxiety, which is a saying. So I try not to live in the past, and I try not to live too far in the future. I live in the present and plan for the future a little bit, but I tried to stay where I'm at and try to conform my life. One thing I always say too, which is important, is at the end of the day, realize how good life is, that you're here, even if you had a bad moment. Uh, Analyze that bad moment, but go to sleep happy and realize that you are alive and be happy for that. So that's some of the things that I do. It's a sick reality that goes on in my head, but those are things that are very imperative for the work that I do, because you never know what's going to be thrown your way, especially when you're dealing with cases, because people might qualify something like, oh, a homeowner might say, oh, I'm dealing with a demon, and of course you have an inkling of thought, okay, this is what it could be. So if they're saying it, even though you might through discernment not think it is, you still have to prepare yourself for the unknown, right? It's like I always say, the best analogy I ever use is you're playing with fire, but that you can't see, or you're in a room that's pitch black with a bunch of people throwing darts. So like you have to be careful because you don't know what you're walking into. Nobody is unknowing and all giving, right? That's what you would say God is. So, but yeah, those are some of the things that I do.
Okay. Now, do people reach out to you in your group to investigate, or how do you choose what you're going to investigate, what you're not going to investigate, or
Yeah, so with PWSM, of course, we just rejuvenized, and we've been around for a few months now. So we have a splash page, and on my website, jamesannitto.com, I do have the email that does go to our PWSM email. Of course, we have a Facebook page, but I do have my own personal account and website as well. And of course, I do a lot of conventions and lecturing and speaking engagements. So I pass out my business cards for people that are paranormal investigators that might come across something, or they might know somebody that needs help, and they give them my card. I don't usually turn any case away unless it's like unless I know emphatically it is spam or BS. Usually, I will still reach out to them, and my process is very long. So a lot of those people actually will negate themselves from it because they don't want to put all the time and energy into actually divulging their story, because a lot of them is crockery. Unfortunately, they want
yeah,
attention or they have mental health issues, and usually my process will eliminate those people, because if they really want help, they'll go through my process, they'll go through my interview stages, they'll go through my questioning, they'll go through everything that they need to go through to receive the help. So my process alone will kind of give away the people that really want help to not want help. Like I had a case recently in New York, and they emailed us and we emailed them back, and we gave them a questionnaire form that is required, an email questionnaire form that they have to write out, and then there's a female physical not fit. Well, there is a physical questionnaire interview, but there's also a phone interview, basically with the same questionnaire. It's verbatim because we want to make sure they're not changing their story or adding anything, so to incite red flags. But this person, we emailed them the questionnaire, and they said we don't have time for this. And I'm like, well, we volunteer. We do this all for free out of our hearts, free of charge. So if you don't have time for this, we really don't have time for it either. We're not gonna do what you want. You want us to call you and hear your spiel, but you won't go through the process that we require to truly identify and document what you're going through for our own records and for your records. So, those people will sift themselves out because, uh, you know, people that want attention or have mental health won't go through that, unfortunately.
That's good to know. Yeah.
That's important because you got to somehow differentiate the cases.
Yeah, and some of those people will go through the process, and then of course when you physically get involved, you will then start to see signs or people's behaviors or medications. Like I had a case in New Bedford where they listed that there were no medications, and there was like a whole cabinet full of pill bottles, like because of health issues they had. So people will lie, but when you're physically involved too, that you can get a better discernment on them and a better idea of their surroundings. I've been in people's houses where they were very well spoken, but they were hoarders or they lived disgustingly, which incites chaos, right? So I've also dealt with people that spoke very well spoken, but the people that were in their family that lived there, especially, a lot of people around here are Portuguese, right? So, Portuguese families live together, stay together, die together. Other people's interactions in the household, you see this, and then you wonder why there's so much negativity built up. And so there's always a story to be told, and it's you have to dissect it. And that's what I find fascinating. I love dealing with people. Love working with people. I love hearing the stories. I don't like to see them tormented by either their mental health or their or speculation or the fact reality of something happening. But I've come across a lot of interesting people.
All right. Well, Scott had some other comments. If werewolves are real, what are the chances they look like the werewolf from American Werewolf in London? And we heard the same how from the movie American Werewolf.
So if I was going back, well, how many years is it now, to the 1500s, 1600s, 1400s of the European Inquisition, then I would totally believe werewolves exist and I would be killing them like son of the bitches. But unfortunately, I do not think werewolves exist in the mindset that we think. A lot of the concept of lycanthropy actually stemmed from a serial killer named Peter Stump, who actually was called the werewolf of, I forgot where the hell he was from. It was either Germany or somewhere within those confines of that area. But Peter Stump is his name. And that's where a lot of that folklore came from, just like vampires came from ancient Mesopotamian times. Lashmutu, I believe her name was the god, the demon god, and she would suck the life force out of men. So those folklorist origins, and then of course Slavic countries like Romania believe in the Strigoi, which is still one of the oldest legends of vampires still to this day. So werewolves, I don't necessarily believe that they exist, and I don't necessarily believe vampires exist. I think it's a great story. I think that they do. Any folklore or myth comes from a truth to some degree, but usually once a story's passed around by bards or people, there's a layer of mythicism added to it, especially if it's a serial killer that killed lots of people and had werewolfish tendencies, and very hairy. So I think that werewolves do not exist, but I could be wrong. Maybe I'll come across one and I'll become one myself once they bite me, or maybe I'll be shredded apart. But I think that folklore is great, but there are certain things within folklore that I do not believe is quite possible. But Peter Stump's a very interesting story, and so isn't the vampiric folklorish legends that really originated from, like I said, Sumerian, Mesopotamian times. But you know, like I said, I'm a see it to believe it person, and I haven't come across a werewolf. Like there's also that a great grand Warren story of the werewolf in Connecticut, and you know I have my love hate relationship with the Warrens. Like I respect them. I've worked with Nesper, modern day Nesper, but I'm still on the fence about that. I wasn't there, wasn't experiencing it. I don't know if there really was a werewolf in Connecticut, but it's a great story. And I think that for the imaginative or the gullible, I think that it will incite stories to come.
All right. And also, something to ask: do you think it's even possible? I think you kind of hinted at it a little bit ago, though, that Jurassic Park could become a reality one day. We could bring dinosaurs back to life, just like in the movies.
It would be hard, right? So yeah, we have bone structures, and we have a little bit of a physical image of to maybe what they were. Of course, you have the Jurassic Park interpretation, which probably is not matter of fact. A lot of the dinosaurs were feathery beings, right? That's why they always say that the Tyrannosaurus Rex is now the chicken, right? So it is, it's hard. Can we take DNA 1 point from a bone structure, or something we might find that's preserved? It's quite possible. We can clone animals to a degree, right? But they are living and they have living DNA, and there's a lot to that of cloning, and sometimes even the clone's not a physical replicant of what that animal was to a degree. um, that's a lot of biophysics, biophysics and all that stuff, which I'm not really specialized in, but it could be quite possible, but I don't think so, to be honest. Just not in this time. Maybe like 1,000 years from now, if we haven't killed ourselves and nuked ourselves by then, there might be able to have something to that degree of technology to do that. But uh, as much as we have technologically advanced, I think there's a long way before we even somehow replicate a dinosaur through DNA. I think it's a long ways out, unless there's like some sort of discovery that happens magically. Um, yeah, that's just my opinion.
All right. And you did kind of definitely, I think you hit on this earlier. What are the chances that ghosts of dinosaurs are around, like human and other animal ghosts and stuff like that? As a paranormal expert, do you believe that could be dinosaur ghosts out there?
No, I do. I do not. Nobody that I have known in this field has ever heard a dinosaur roar or to that magnitude. I know the Virgin House in New York has a primordial swamp where they found a mastodon uh, um, in the swamp, but there has been no sightings or sounds of what a mastodon would have sounded like. Of course, that's the descendant of an elephant, but there has been no documentation of such near that house or in that house of such. So I digress. I think there's an emotional connection to why things linger or why things echo. I like to call them echoes, but unless we had that emotional connection, then I don't think that something will appear, unfortunately. But trust me, I would love to deal with a demonic Tyrannosaurus Rex. That'd be freaking
That would be
awesome.
something.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, right.
And Scott says, thank you. Thank you for
You're
tuning in
welcome.
and commenting. We appreciate that, Scott. And one more comment. Kai Gibb, I have a house made in 1908 in Portland, Oregon, and yet to see something.
Yeah, it doesn't mean you always have an old house, something's gonna happen. It really, to me, it always depends on the history, what has happened in there, the emotions. There's a lot of things that could go into why there could be a haunting. One thing that I always say, it could be the mindset of the individual, but one person that also said this is Charles Dickens. A lot of people don't understand Charles Dickens is a part of the Ghost Club, which is one of the oldest paranormal investigation groups that ever existed in the late 1800s. And Charles Dickens was joined by Arthur Conan Doyle, who's a fool, even though he wrote the greatest detective story ever. And also Charles Babbage, who was the godfather of the computers. And there were also other very brilliant minds a part of that organization. And it's still an organization to this day. So isn't the paranormal PRS or whatever it is called out there, which is not as old as Ghost Club, but it's pretty relatively almost within the same age range. But Charles Dickens, before he became absolutely famous for his writings, such as like Christmas Carol, he wrote a beginning and end chapter of a pamphlet novel called Haunted House. And his speculation was that we are the battery to a location, and we energize it, and then things haunt us because we become haunted by it, right? Either we instill our own emotions, our own perceptions into it, and then that creates a ripple effect. So maybe Kai Gibb does not have that mindset and is not feeding into it or giving payment a mind to it, or maybe nothing really ever happened in that house. Nobody ever died in it. No extreme emotions were delivered in that house. So there could be a lot of things that you can look at, certain avenues that could aid to why you have never seen something. And also too, on top of it, a lot of the people that do experience things are very imaginative or very gullible. And I don't say that derogatory, but there are people that are very gullible, very imaginative, or are very keen to their intuition, and that's why they experience things. So like I said, there's a lot of pathways to why you could experience something, or why you could not experience something. Not every old house is haunted. So, I hate that mantra that my house is old, so it has to be haunted. No, it's not the case, unfortunately.
Okay, Scott has one other question. Is there any truth to the Hound of the Baskervilles? Do you think it's just a legend or a story or just a myth?
Well, I'm not very familiar with that story to a full degree, but as I stated in my one of my statements, is that a legend or a myth has a truth, right? It always stems from something, and then through years and through people's talking about it or being discussed in a group, you know, one thing I've always learned is I can tell a story to a group of people, and every single one of them will take it differently, and then they will pass that story differently to the next person, right? So I think as long as that has been around, that legend, it has translated into something that's far different than exactly what occurred. And I think that one is something that we can all probably agree on if you know what legends and myths are. Maybe there was some truth to it to a degree, and then of course it got blown out of proportion.
All right. And thank you, Scott. I'm having so much fun talking to you guys, talking about monsters and stuff. Thank you very much, you guys. Become one of my favorite top 10 favorites. All right.
Woo!
Well, thank you, Scott. We'd like to have you back. And if Scott and anyone else, please, I'm going to do a minor plug right now. Hit the thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, already subscribe so you can be notified of future broadcasts.
That was paranormal. My thumbs disappeared there for a second. That was pretty scary.
All right, well, we're going to begin to work our way out of here. We've been going for a little bit. 1 second here while we're going. There we go. There we go. There we go. I want to thank James Annitto for coming on with us. The information is down below, including his website is pwsm.org. And Facebook page is, it's scrolling across the bottom there. I don't know exactly what it is, unfortunately, but it's scrolling across the bottom of the screen. And also the email address also is scrolling across the bottom. So that'll help you out, James, you guys out, you and Bob.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming on. I appreciate it greatly.
Thank you for having me on, guys. And it was a great time. Great questions. I loved, that's one thing I like about this show so far is that it wasn't just generalized to one topic. And I always find that fun.
We never know what we're going to talk about. Yeah. That's the other interesting thing.
it's nice to
You
have
never
them
do
back.
really know.
Yeah, definitely. And Bigfoot, and now I see Loch Ness Monster, and Fresh is leaving because it's after 1 a.m. over there in the UK.
Yes, thank you, Fresh. He stays up really late just to catch the show.
Yeah, it's always good. And I don't know what time it is in the Australia. I don't know. Are they a day ahead of us, or
they be behind us? It's probably around noon or so, or late morning.
Yeah. So it's always good to have the chat, and
Thank you for staying fresh.
Yes. That's fresh.
If you like the broadcast, consider helping us out by liking and sharing. Thank everyone for tuning in and watching on Facebook, or giving a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, and sharing on YouTube. If you watch this far, well, don't forget to hit the bell so you can be notified of future broadcasts. A couple other things. My update as well, which I did not give yet. I did discover another property for another candidate. I do not think he is much of a candidate to be a major perp, though. I think our number one perp that we have to track, that we already are aware of, is one we have to check out mainly. But we do have another possible property in case things don't look good when we hit the first one's property. The good thing is they're not far away, so it's not far for us to check them out. And it has a loop around the one building, which is supposed to be there. The roof is a little off color, and I can't tell what the building is from a satellite view. So, but it's something that we might check out as well. And Michael and I are looking to possibly do it on Saturday. Go back to the area and see what we can come up with.
Nope, Scott said it's 10:22 in the morning, so they're 14 hours ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's nighttime there.
He's in the future.
Yeah.
Yes, they definitely are in the future. So that's the update on our missing woman case. And hopefully we'll have Lori Johnson on again before too long. And she will also be getting a show on here as well, as I will be helping her do that. Michael, do you have anything to add?
No, it's been fun. James, thanks for coming on.
Thank you, guys.
James, do you have anything to add?
You better come see me or I'm going to find you. Just kidding.
About your upcoming appearances, I did not have that information. Why don't you give that one more time if you could?
Yeah, so this weekend I'll be in New Jersey at White Hill Mansion. This Saturday, I think that is May 11th, right?
Yes.
So I'll be there. Next weekend, actually, never mind. Next weekend's a PWSN thing, but we have that. June 1st is USSL event. We are still selling tickets for a family night. You can bring your kids. You can bring whoever you want. Have a good time. Investigate. Learn one of the greatest ships that I've investigated in my life. And then on June 8th in Marion, South Carolina, we will be the first group to investigate old funeral home called the Holiday House. That was, I believe, 1895. I could be a little wrong on that date, but that's June 8th in Marion, South Carolina. And there are still only a few tickets left. There's only, I think, 5 tickets left. So be one of the few. But other than that, I have a shitload more events. But yes, you can follow me on Facebook or follow PWSM and see where we're going to be.
And that's up just went by just a little bit ago, down below on the screen. And I think that's really about it. I want to thank you, chat. You guys were great. Thank you, as always. Looking to you guys are doing great. And the chat's gotten better, gotten more comments as we've gone by. Thank you. We appreciate that a great deal. You guys are awesome. And Melissa says, thanks, guys. Have a great weekend with a beer as well. Yes, definitely going to do that. You too, Melissa.
Great.
And I have to get another beer. I might be drinking afterwards here. Watch a little bit of TV and drink, doing that afterwards. And
it's Friday.
All right. I think we're going to take it on out.
Have a good night, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks.
And you guys, thank you for watching so long. In a moment here. Actually, you know what? I think I played the wrong intro at the beginning, actually. Amazingly. I played, oh, by the way, next time, before we go, I did forget one minor detail. Next week, we will have on This Week in Paranormal, which is the intro I played by mistake tonight, I believe. And we will have more video clips of both UFOs and Bigfoot, or not Bigfoot, but paranormal. And we'll also play some clips relating to broadcasts relating to UFOs and paranormal. Some debunking alternatives and some mostly possible explanation alternatives. So we're going to move out of here. That's something to look forward to next week, 7 o'clock right here. And thank you. Now we're going to move on, though. Good night.
This has been a CARC Universal production.